The morning heat presses down on Ashbury Street. Traffic crawls. Horns echo. Officer Kyle Brantley leans on his patrol car, sunglasses low on his nose, tapping the hood with impatience. A rusted blue sedan rolls through the light a second too late. He sees an opportunity. "Pull over!" he shouts, slamming the siren switch. The car hesitates before drifting toward the curb. Inside, an elderly black woman grips the steering wheel, her fingers trembling slightly but her gaze calm. Her name is Evelyn Carter. Brantley doesn't know that name yet. He just sees another disrespectful driver. He storms toward the window, boots hitting the asphalt hard. "License and registration." Evelyn rolls down the glass, slow and steady. Her voice is soft. "Of course, officer, just a moment," Brantley snorts. "That's the problem with you people, always taking your time." The words cut through the street like glass. A teenager filming nearby flinches. Someone whispers, "Is he serious?" Evelyn doesn't react. She reaches for her purse, hands visible, deliberate, careful. Brantley's jaw tightens. "Don't play games with me!" He yanks the door open. Gasps ripple across the sidewalk. The woman doesn't resist. She just looks up. Calm, steady, unafraid. That look infuriates him. He grabs her arm, jerks her out of the car. She stumbles but stays upright. Her voice still even. "You don't need to." His fist moves before her sentence ends. A dull crack. The crowd freezes. The sound echoes between parked cars like a gunshot. She collapses to her knees, one hand bracing against the asphalt. Her glasses slide down, catching a glint of sunlight. The world holds its breath. Brantley breathes hard, chest heaving, face red. "Resisting arrest," he mutters. But nobody believes it. Every eye on that street sees what he just did. A delivery driver across the road whispers, "Man, that's an old lady." Someone lifts their phone. Recording. Evelyn wipes the corner of her mouth, a small streak of blood. She doesn't shout. She doesn't curse. She just looks up at him. And something in that silence makes him step back. That look. Cold, assessing, unbroken. It's not fear, it's memory. "Get up!" he snaps. She doesn't move. Her voice is almost a whisper. "I've seen worse men fall faster." He doesn't even understand what she means. He just drags her toward the car, handcuffs clinking. The teenager's video captures everything, from the punch to the silence. It lasts only 32 seconds, but by sunset, 32 seconds will become the most replayed moment in the city. Paramedics arrive. Brantley waves them off, claiming control. He doesn't notice one of them kneeling by Evelyn, whispering quietly, "Ma'am, do you want to call someone?" Evelyn answers, "No need, they'll come when they're supposed to." The medic frowns, confused. "Who will?" But she doesn't reply. Her hands tremble slightly as she adjusts her broken glasses. Her badge chain, thin and silver, slips out from beneath her sleeve for just a second. No one notices. Not yet. Brantley writes his report by the hood of the car, still shaking with adrenaline. He tries to sound calm. "Suspect resisted. Minimal force used." His pen digs too hard into the paper. A faint crowd still lingers. A mother holds her son back from looking too long. The air feels heavier than before. Across the street, the teenager uploads the clip. Title: "Cop hits grandma for no reason." Within minutes, the view count explodes. By the time Brantley returns to the precinct, dispatch is already buzzing about some viral video. He ignores it, tells himself people will forget. They always do. But silence has a way of spreading faster than noise. Evelyn sits in the back of the ambulance, eyes closed, breathing slow, her voice barely audible. They still don't know who they've touched. No one replies. The siren starts. The city moves. But something, somewhere, has already changed. The recording ends with her face, calm, bruised, unshaken. Millions will soon see that image. And for the first time in his career, Officer Brantley will learn that silence can hit harder than any punch. No one speaks, but justice watches. The video spreads faster than the evening wind. 32 seconds. No cuts, no edits, just a punch, and a city holding its breath. By nightfall, everyone has seen it. Gas stations, coffee shops, bus stops. The whole town glows blue with the same frozen image. An old woman on her knees, and a cop standing over her. Officer Kyle Brantley sits alone in the locker room. His knuckles still ache. He scrolls through the comments. "Fire him. Arrest him. Grandma didn't even flinch. He throws the phone into his locker. It rattles against the metal like a warning bell. Outside, the precinct hums with whispers. No one dares look him in the eye. Chief Rodriguez calls him into the office. "Sit down, Kyle." Brantley forces a grin. "Sir, it's being blown out of proportion." Rodriguez leans forward, voice low. "You hit a woman on camera." "She was resisting. She's 70 years old." Silence. Only the ticking clock between them. Rodriguez exhales, long and tired. "You'll keep quiet. Internal Affairs will review the footage. Until then, stay off the streets." Brantley clenches his jaw. "Suspension?" "Administrative leave," Rodriguez corrects, but the words taste the same. He storms out, shoulders tense. Other officers step aside as he passes, not out of respect, but distance, like something contagious. Across town, Evelyn Carter sits in a small hospital room. Fluorescent lights hum softly. A bandage runs along her cheek. Her eyes stay fixed on the ceiling. The nurse says she should rest. Evelyn just nods. But sleep never comes easy for people who've seen war in silence. She turns her head toward the small TV mounted in the corner. Her own face fills the screen. Slow motion. The punch. Over and over. The news anchor's voice shakes slightly. The woman's identity remains unknown at this time. Evelyn smiles faintly. Good. Let them wonder a little longer. A knock at the door. A paramedic steps in. The same one from earlier. "Ma'am, people are asking who you are." "Reporters outside." She answers softly. "Tell them I'm no one." He hesitates, nods, and leaves. She closes her eyes again. But behind her lids, memories replay. Dark rooms, coded calls, faces she once protected. She left that world behind years ago, or thought she did. Back at the precinct, Chief Rodriguez stares at the incident file. Name, Evelyn C. No address, no prior record, nothing. He types the name again, and this time something strange happens. A small red notice flashes on his monitor. Restricted, federal clearance required. He leans back, heartbeat rising. "Who the hell are you, Evelyn?" He tries to call Internal Affairs, but the line's already busy. He doesn't know they're watching the same video, paused at the same frame, the glint of a badge chain under her sleeve. Midnight. Outside Evelyn's hospital window, the city murmurs. Police radios crackle faintly in the distance. She reaches for her bag on the side table. Inside, beneath her wallet and keys, lies a small leather case. She opens it. A badge. Worn but polished. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Retired, not forgotten. She stares at it for a long moment, then closes it quietly and sets it aside. Not yet. Not until they come to her first. Meanwhile, Brantley lies awake in his apartment. His television flickers between news channels. Every headline is his name now. Every voice is judgment. He turns the sound off, but the silence feels louder than the noise. He looks at his reflection in the dark TV screen. A man who wanted control and lost it the second he raised his hand. He opens a beer, half drains it, then opens another. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wail. For the first time, they don't sound like backup. They sound like consequence. The next morning, Evelyn signs her discharge papers. Her face is calm. The nurse asks, "Are you sure you don't want an escort home?" She smiles. "I don't live far." She walks out of the hospital, slow but steady. Cameras flash from across the street. Reporters shout questions. She doesn't answer. Every step she takes is deliberate, a silent march through chaos. At the same time, Rodriguez receives a call. The voice on the other end is low, official, unmistakably federal. "This is Agent Reed, Internal Affairs Division. We're coming down to review your officer's conduct. Also, there's something you should know about the victim." Rodriguez frowns. "What about her?" A pause. "She's one of ours." The line goes dead. By evening, a quiet storm builds around the precinct. Journalists gather, citizens chant, and every TV in the city replays the same moment. But Evelyn doesn't watch. She sits by her window, the badge case resting in her lap. The glow of the streetlights dances across the gold emblem. She whispers, "They always forget what silence can do." Outside, the wind picks up, carrying sirens, voices, and tension across the night. A city about to learn what justice sounds like when it doesn't need to raise its voice. No screams, no headlines, just silence, and the beginning of reckoning. The morning air is cold, sharp, and uneasy. Inside the precinct, the hum of printers replaces conversation. Every officer moves slower than usual, their eyes pretending not to see Kyle Brantley. He walks past them, chin up, uniform crisp, as if nothing happened. But whispers trail behind him like shadows. Chief Rodriguez stands by his office window, watching a small crowd form outside the building. Posters, phones, the words "Justice for Evelyn" painted in red and black. The knock on the door breaks his stare. A young officer, pale and hesitant, steps in. "Sir, we got a flag when we ran her name through the system." Rodriguez turns. "What kind of flag?" "Federal." That one word freezes the room. Federal. The officer hands him a printed file. Rodriguez reads, "Evelyn Carter, no criminal record, retired." Wait! His eyes stop at the next line. "Federal Bureau of Investigation, clearance level 4. He sits down, slow, disbelieving. "Get me confirmation. Now!" Across town, Evelyn sips black coffee by her window. Her face still bears the bruise, purple fading to yellow. The morning news talks about her non-stop. She doesn't watch, she listens. A soft knock at the door. She opens it, and standing there is a man in a gray suit, badge in hand. "Ma'am, I'm Agent Thomas Reed. I believe we've met before." For a moment, the years peel away. Beirut, Prague, late nights under code names and radios. Evelyn's eyes soften. "Reed, I thought you were still with Counter Intel." He nods. "Until they called this morning." He steps inside, scanning the modest apartment. "Didn't think I'd find you living like this." She shrugs. "I traded chaos for quiet." He studies her face, and the quiet hit back. They sit at the small table. Reed opens his folder, slides a photograph forward, a still from the viral video. Her kneeling. The cop above her. "You're all over the country, Evelyn." She says nothing. Reed lowers his voice. "They want to handle this internally. But Washington's watching. You know what that means." "I do," she says. "It means it's already too late for them to bury it." Back at the precinct, Brantley paces the hallway like a trapped animal. He sees Rodriguez on the phone, voice low, words clipped. When the chief hangs up, Brantley snaps, "Sir, I need to clear this up. The media's twisting." Rodriguez cuts him off. "Shut up and sit down, Kyle." Brantley blinks. "Excuse me?" Rodriguez slams a file on the desk, her name on the cover. "You hit a federal agent." The color drains from Brantley's face. "That's impossible. She retired 3 years ago, but she's still under federal protection." Brantley's mouth opens, but no words come out. He looks at the file again, at the old black and white photo clipped to the corner. Evelyn in her FBI jacket, a badge shining against her chest. She looks younger, but those eyes haven't changed. Cold, focused, watching. Rodriguez leans back. "Do you understand what this means? You didn't just hit a civilian, you hit one of theirs." Brantley swallows. "What do I do?" Rodriguez sighs. "You pray she doesn't decide to speak." In Washington, an internal memo circulates through encrypted channels. Subject: E. Carter incident. Status: high sensitivity. The language is clinical, detached, but behind the words lies a simple truth. A retired agent was assaulted by a local cop, and the Bureau remembers its own. Agent Reed stands in front of a camera on a secure line. A senior official asks, "Will she testify?" Reed hesitates. She says no, but she doesn't have to. Afternoon. The protests double in size. Students, church members, veterans, each holding a sign, each repeating the same question. How could he hit her? Inside her apartment, Evelyn reads none of it. She writes instead, short, neat lines on old stationery. To whom it may concern, silence is not consent. It's observation. And observation never forgets. She folds the letter and places it beside her badge. At the precinct, Brantley sits in the interrogation room. He's not handcuffed, but it feels like he is. The mirror stares back. He leans forward. "This is insane. She's just an old woman." A voice from the speaker interrupts. "She's the reason half your city isn't burning." Brantley freezes. "Who said that?" The intercom clicks off. He's alone again. The silence returns. Not the calm kind, but the kind that sounds like waiting judgment. Outside, night falls. Agent Reed drives past the growing crowd toward the precinct. Reporters chase his car, flashes exploding like lightning. He ignores them, eyes steady ahead. Tomorrow he'll confront Brantley face to face, And by then, every officer in that building will know exactly who Evelyn Carter is. Evelyn stands at her window once more, watching the lights flicker in the distance. For years, she worked in shadows. Now the truth is dragging the light back to her doorstep. She whispers to the night, "They wanted noise. I'll give them silence." The wind carries her words through the open window, soft, invisible, unstoppable. Truth doesn't shout. It waits. And when it's ready, it knocks. By noon, the city stops pretending it's calm. The video is no longer a clip. It's a headline. It's everywhere. News anchors repeat it like scripture. An elderly black woman was struck by Officer Kyle Brantley. They pause, replay, repeat. Every network runs the same 32 seconds. Someone inside the precinct leaked the report. Name, Evelyn Carter. Occupation, former federal agent. And just like that, the story shifts. Now it's not just police brutality, it's betrayal. A cop hit an FBI agent, the country loses its mind. Chief Rodriguez slams his door shut. The blinds rattle from the force. His phone hasn't stopped ringing for hours. "Turn off the damn news," he barks, but the sound keeps bleeding through the walls. Brantley stands by the corner, eyes hollow. He hasn't spoken since the call came in. Every officer in the building avoids him. To them, he's radioactive, untouchable, doomed. Rodriguez finally looks at him. "You realize what you've done?" Brantley mutters. "She's just an old lady." Rodriguez shouts back, "She's a decorated federal agent, you idiot! They're calling this an assault on national law enforcement." The words hit harder than any punch. Brantley lowers his gaze. How was I supposed to know?" Rodriguez leans forward. "That's the point. You didn't even try." Across town, Evelyn walks slowly down a quiet street. Reporters follow her from a distance. Every step she takes, they whisper, "That's her! Agent Carter." She doesn't even look angry. She enters a small diner, the kind that hasn't changed in 40 years. The owner freezes. "Ma'am, I saw what happened. I'm so sorry." Evelyn smiles faintly. "No need to be sorry for what others choose." She sits near the window, orders tea. The world outside screams her name, but inside, time feels still. The kind of stillness only old agents understand. Her phone buzzes once, a message from Reed. "It's out, you're public now." She types back, "Then let them listen." By afternoon, crowds flood City Hall. Signs rise like a forest. No more silence. Justice for Evelyn. No badge above the law. Helicopters hover. Cameras swarm. The mayor releases a statement calling it a regrettable act of misconduct. But the people don't want regret. They want consequence. In the FBI regional office, Reed watches the live broadcast. His jaw tightens. "They're turning her into a symbol," a colleague says. Reed shakes his head. "She doesn't want that. She wants truth." He grabs his coat. "She'll talk tonight. She has to." Inside his apartment, Brantley drowns in noise. His name crawls across every screen. Officer suspended amid federal assault investigation. His phone vibrates non-stop. Messages, threats, death wishes, and prayers tangled together. He pulls the blinds, shuts out the light, but silence won't come. It keeps echoing. The moment her eyes met his, the calm after his rage. He can still feel that silence pressing against his chest. He grabs a bottle. Whiskey burns its way down. He stares at his hands, still faintly bruised from the impact. He whispers to himself, "She didn't even fight back." His voice trembles. Why didn't she fight back? At dusk, Evelyn sits on a park bench. Children play nearby. Their laughter feels like another lifetime. Agent Reed finds her there. Reporters are waiting for a statement. She doesn't look up. "They'll wait longer." "You could end this chaos," he says. Evelyn shakes her head. "No, the chaos isn't mine. It's theirs." Reed sits beside her. "They're calling for his arrest. If you speak, it'll happen tonight." She finally turns to him. "And then what? Another one takes his place? Another hand raised? Another camera rolling?" "No, Thomas. They don't need me to shout. They need to hear themselves in the silence." He exhales, defeated. "You haven't changed." "Neither has the world," she replies. Night falls heavy. The news cycle burns on. A leaked body cam clip surfaces online. Clearer, unedited, undeniable. The punch, the blood, the badge chain glinting under sunlight. Had justice. For Evelyn trends in 48 states. By midnight, the governor issues a statement. An independent investigation will begin immediately. In the precinct, Rodriguez receives another call, this one from Washington. The voice is calm, deliberate, and final. Effective immediately, FBI oversight is assuming full jurisdiction. No statements, no interference. Tell your man he's done. Rodriguez hangs up. Looks at Brantley sitting in the corner, head buried in his hands. He doesn't say it aloud, but the silence speaks for him. In her apartment, Evelyn finally breaks her quiet. She turns on the TV. Her own face fills the screen again. Older, softer, stronger. Reporters talk. Politicians posture. Everyone claims to speak for her, but she just whispers to herself, they never learn. She sets her badge on the table beside her tea, then looks out the window. The city lights shimmer like restless stars. Justice is moving. Slowly, quietly, but it's moving. Noise fades, truth lingers, and silence does the rest. The sun rises pale and uneasy over the city. The protests haven't stopped, they've just grown quieter. The kind of silence that feels like pressure before thunder. Inside the precinct, the tension is thicker than smoke. Officers stand around pretending to work, pretending not to notice the empty desk in the corner. Kyle Brantley's desk. He sits in a small conference room now, hands folded, eyes empty. He hasn't slept. He doesn't know what to say. Chief Rodriguez walks in, suit wrinkled, tie loose. Behind him stands a man Brantley doesn't recognize. Gray suit, clipped hair, badge on his belt. The badge reads, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Rodriguez clears his throat. This is Special Agent Thomas Reed. He's here from Washington. Reed nods once. Officer Brantley. Brantley's voice cracks slightly. I've already given my statement. Reed replies calmly, You'll give another. Rodriguez glances between them. I'll leave you two. He shuts the door quietly. The silence that follows isn't ordinary. It's surgical, precise. Reed sets a thin file on the table. No logo, no label, just wait. He opens it, revealing photos. Evelyn Carter in a dark tactical vest, FBI insignia on the chest, a weapon holstered, eyes sharp as glass. Brantley stares. She was one of you? Reed's tone doesn't change. She is one of us, retired, not forgotten. Brantley's throat tightens. This is insane. I didn't know. That's the problem, Reed says. You didn't care to know. Across the city, Evelyn sits at her kitchen table, the morning paper folded neatly beside her coffee. Her photo takes the entire front page. Former FBI agent assaulted by racist cop. She doesn't even look at it. Instead, she opens a small wooden box. Inside, a few medals, a folded letter, and an old photo of her team. Reed is there, 20 years younger, smiling like he still believed justice was simple. The radio hums in the background. A reporter speaks softly. Sources confirm the victim once led multiple covert operations under federal command. Evelyn switches it off. Silence returns. She prefers it that way. Her phone buzzes once. A text from Reed. Interview started. She types back. Stay patient. Back in the interrogation room, Reed slides another page forward. It's a federal incident log, classified but unredacted for this moment. Do you know what this is, officer? Brantley shakes his head. This is the list of people Agent Carter helped put behind bars. Drug traffickers, terror suspects, men who thought power gave them permission. Reed leans forward. You remind me of them. Brantley slams his hand on the table. Don't compare me to criminals. Reed doesn't flinch. You hit a federal agent on camera. His voice hardens. You don't need comparison. You're proof. Brantley's shoulders sag. He can feel his badge burning in his pocket. A symbol of authority turned into a brand of shame. Outside, Chief Rodriguez watches from the hallway, arms crossed, head low. He knows what comes next. When the feds arrive, locals vanish. Control is illusion. His phone rings again. Another journalist. He ignores it. Then another call. This time the number is blocked. He answers anyway. A cold voice greets him. Chief Rodriguez, this is Director Campbell, FBI Command. We need your full cooperation. He exhales. You have it. Good. Then start preparing your department for an external audit. This isn't just about one man anymore. The line goes dead. Rodriguez rubs his temples. He can already hear the sound of careers collapsing. Evelyn leaves her apartment that afternoon. No makeup, no disguise, just truth written across her face. When she reaches the courthouse steps, 1,000 cameras turn. Questions fly like arrows. Are you pressing charges? Do you forgive him? Will you return to the bureau? She stops halfway up the stairs, turns to face them, and says only one thing. I don't need to raise my voice for justice to hear me. The crowd falls silent, microphones lower. Even the wind seems to pause. That clip, 7 seconds long, spreads faster than the original video. Inside the interrogation room, Reed's phone vibrates. He watches the clip silently, then sets the phone down. She just spoke, he says. Brantley looks up. What did she say? Reed replies, enough. He gathers his files and stands. We'll be in touch. As he reaches the door, Brantley blurts out, what happens to me now? Reed pauses. That depends on whether you keep lying to yourself. He walks out. Brantley's alone again. But this time, the silence feels alive, breathing, judging. That night, Evelyn returns home. Reed's waiting outside her building. You handled that perfectly, he says. I didn't handle anything, she replies. I just stopped protecting people who abuse their badges. Reed nods. They're scared. Washington's watching every frame. Evelyn looks past him, toward the horizon. Good. Maybe they'll finally listen to the quiet ones. As the city settles under darkness, headlines flicker across screens. FBI takes over investigation. Chief under review. Officer Brantley facing federal charges. In every headline, Evelyn's face remains the same, calm, scarred, and untouchable. The world has turned its gaze on her, but she doesn't blink. She's spent her life in silence. Now, silence is the one thing she controls. The past doesn't haunt her. It returns, to finish what she started. Morning arrives without sunlight, just clouds. Gray, heavy, unblinking, like the mood across the city. The precinct is no longer theirs. FBI vehicles line the front steps. Agents in suits move quietly through the halls, collecting files, removing computers, sealing evidence rooms with red tape. Every officer watches in silence. No one speaks. They all know what it means when the bureau arrives unannounced. Chief Rodriguez stands in his doorway, jaw tight. Cooperate with them, he says flatly. No one argues. There's nothing left to protect. In the basement conference room, Agent Reed begins his debrief. 3 monitors glow in front of him. Body cam footage, eyewitness videos, and the internal police logs. Beside him sits a woman from the Justice Department. Across the table, Brantley. His uniform is gone, replaced by a plain gray shirt. His eyes are hollow. Reed hits play. The punch, the silence after. The crowd frozen in disbelief. Brantley flinches when the sound echoes through the speakers. Reed watches him carefully. You've seen this 100 times, haven't you? Brantley doesn't answer. Reed leans forward. So what do you see now? Brantley stares at the frozen frame. His own hand midair, Evelyn's calm face inches away. He whispers, I see myself losing everything. Reed's voice stays steady. No, you see what happens when power forgets purpose. Outside, the protests have shifted tone. No longer angry, just waiting. People hold candles instead of signs. Every flame flickers in unison, a quiet message. We're still watching. A small boy holds a photo of Evelyn, printed from a news article. His mother whispers, she didn't yell, she didn't fight, and still she won. Inside the Bureau's temporary office, Agent Thomas Reed briefs Director Campbell over video call. Local cooperation is complete. We've confirmed internal tampering with the report. Chief Rodriguez altered the initial witness statements. The director nods grimly. And Evelyn? She refuses interviews. Then let her be, Campbell says. Sometimes silence tells the story better than we ever could. Across town, Evelyn walks through a quiet community center. Children draw signs for the rallies. Volunteers serve food to families waiting outside. She moves unnoticed between them. No entourage, no cameras. A teenage girl stops her. Ma'am, are you her? Evelyn smiles softly. I'm just someone who forgot how to stay quiet at the wrong moment. The girl nods, tears in her eyes. My mom says you reminded her what courage looks like. Evelyn's voice lowers. Courage is quieter than fear. That's why people rarely hear it. She leaves before anyone else notices her. At the precinct, the walls are stripped bare. Evidence boards gone. Files sealed. The station that once echoed with noise now feels like a tomb. Rodriguez sits at his desk, hands shaking. A younger officer stands in front of him, eyes wet. Sir, are we all going down for this? Rodriguez looks at the empty hallway behind him, No, we already went down. We just didn't notice when. He opens his drawer, takes out his resignation letter, places it on the table, and walks out without looking back. In the interrogation room, Reed closes his folder. That's all for today. Brantley finally speaks. She doesn't want to press charges, right? Reed nods once. No, she doesn't. Then, why are you still here? Reed looks at him for a long moment. Because justice isn't about what she wants. It's about what you did. Brantley swallows hard. You think I'm a monster? Reed shakes his head. No, monsters don't feel regret. You do. That's worse. He stands to leave. Brantley's voice cracks behind him. Will she ever forgive me? Reed stops at the door. She already did. That's why you're still breathing. Evening settles like ash over the city. News crews report the latest developments. Chief resigns. Department under review. Federal oversight begins. But the biggest headline isn't written by journalists. It's painted on a wall near City Hall by protesters. Silence brought justice. Evelyn walks past it at dusk. She stops, looking at the mural, her own face sketched in faint lines, a hand raised not in defense, but in peace. Children light candles below it. Agent Reed finds her there. They're calling you a hero, he says. Evelyn's smile is tired. I'm not. Heroes save people. I just reminded them to listen. Reed nods. The department's collapsing from the inside. Brantley will face federal charges. I don't want revenge, she says quietly. I want reflection. He studies her. You think people change? She looks up at the night sky. Not people. Systems, eventually. But only if someone stays silent long enough for them to hear the echo. Later that night, in the empty interrogation room, Brantley sits alone. No handcuffs, no guards, just silence. He stares at his reflection in the two-way mirror. For the first time, he doesn't see a cop. He sees a man, small, flawed, human. He whispers, "She never even raised her voice." The mirror doesn't answer. It doesn't have to. Outside, thunder rolls somewhere far away. Rain begins to fall, washing the city streets clean, or trying to. And in one quiet apartment across town, Evelyn watches the rain streak down her window, her badge lying beside a half-empty cup of tea. Her reflection is calm. She closes her eyes and whispers, "They finally started listening." Justice didn't knock on doors this time. It waited and was heard. The city hasn't slept in days. Headlines change every hour, but the image remains the same. A woman standing tall, her silence louder than 1,000 speeches. Across the nation, people wait for her voice. They want to hear what she thinks, what she feels, what she'll do next. But Evelyn Carter isn't rushing. She's never rushed anything in her life. She believes words mean nothing if they come before reflection. Inside a local church downtown, Evelyn sits in the last pew. Candles line the aisle. The soft hum of a choir fills the air. Not hymns, just voices breathing together. She looks up at the stained glass. Light cuts across her bruised cheek. She closes her eyes. Agent Thomas Reed waits outside the doors, talking quietly with reporters who can't stop asking the same question, "When will she speak?" He answers simply, "When she's ready." Inside, Evelyn whispers to herself, "They want a statement, but what they need is a mirror." The morning arrives heavy with anticipation. TV networks set up outside the courthouse. Microphones, cameras, lights, the machinery of attention hums like an engine. A small podium stands near the steps. Empty. Waiting. Agent Reed checks his watch. Evelyn hasn't arrived yet. For a moment, he wonders if she ever will. Then he hears it. A murmur from the crowd. A shift, like the air changing direction. She's here. Evelyn walks through the crowd slowly. No security, no entourage. Just her. The same calm face the whole country now knows. Reporters swarm, questions flying like sparks. "Ms. Carter, do you plan to sue? Will you press federal charges? Do you forgive Officer Brantley?" She keeps walking, eyes steady ahead. Every step measured, every silence deliberate. She stops at the podium. The crowd quiets. Even the wind stills. Evelyn looks down at the microphone. Her voice, when it comes, is soft, but carries through every speaker, every hallway, every home watching live. "I was trained to see what others miss, to stay calm when others lose control, and to speak only when silence no longer protects anyone." A murmur ripples through the crowd. She continues, "That day I saw a man confuse authority for power, and I saw a system that led him. No one moves. No one blinks. I don't want his badge. I don't want revenge. I want reflection, not just from one man, but from every uniform that forgets what it stands for. Her voice breaks slightly, but she doesn't stop. I've served my country in silence for most of my life. Silence can protect, but sometimes silence kills. And I will not let it kill truth. She pauses, looks over the crowd, thousands now, faces turned toward her, some with tears, some with shame. If we ever want peace, we must first stop defending violence. Cameras flash, no one dares speak over her. She ends simply, I forgive him, but forgiveness isn't freedom, it's a mirror. Look into it. Then she steps away. No more words, no follow-up. The silence that follows is deafening. Reporters lower their microphones. Even the birds circling above seem to hover in place. Agent Reed meets her at the car. That was powerful, he says. It wasn't a speech, she replies. It was a warning. He nods slowly. Washington's calling this a turning point. They want you to come back, consult for internal reform. Evelyn shakes her head. I'm done being the system's conscience. Let them find their own. Reed studies her for a moment. You're not angry? She gives him a small smile. Anger burns fast. I prefer the slow fire of consequence. Across town, Brantley sits in his apartment watching the live broadcast. Her words replay on every channel. He rewinds them over and over. The way she said forgiveness isn't freedom. He whispers it to himself. Each time it feels heavier, like a weight pressing against his chest. He picks up his phone, scrolls through messages he hasn't answered. Hate, threats, noise. He shuts it off. Silence feels more honest now. For the first time since that day, he starts to cry. Not loud, just quietly, like someone who finally hears the sound of his own guilt. That night, the nation divides, half demanding justice, half stunned by her grace. But somewhere in between, something new begins to grow. In schools, teachers replay her words. In precincts, officers gather around old monitors, listening to her voice echo through their halls. And in one training room, a young recruit whispers, I'll remember her silence more than her speech. Evelyn sits by her window again. The city hums below her. On the TV, her own face is frozen mid-sentence, a new headline scrolling beneath. Evelyn Carter's words ignite national reform movement. She turns it off. She doesn't need to see it. Her tea steams quietly beside her. She looks at her reflection in the glass and whispers to herself, I spoke once. Now the silence can do the rest. Outside, the wind moves through the city like a sigh. Gentle, steady, alive. The statement ended, but the echo stayed. The city wakes up to fire. Not real fire, the kind that burns in headlines. Every network loops Evelyn's speech. Every word dissected, quoted, praised, attacked. She said 12 sentences. The world heard a revolution. Hashtags flood the internet. Listen, to Evelyn, forgiveness is not freedom, justice. Echoes across America, people replay the clip like scripture. Churches, classrooms, subway screens, her voice becomes a rhythm in public life. Forgiveness isn't freedom, it's a mirror. Those 6 words won't die easily. In the precinct, silence returns, but this time it feels like shame. The walls, once echoing with laughter and gossip, now listen to whispers about subpoenas and hearings. Chief Rodriguez is gone, his nameplate removed, his office sealed. Agents in suits walk the corridors like ghosts, collecting files, erasing what's left of loyalty. Brantley sits in the same interrogation room as before. The chair creaks, the air hums with fluorescent buzz. Agent Reed enters without knocking. He doesn't sit. He just drops a manila envelope on the table. Federal indictment, he says flatly. Brantley doesn't touch it. He just stares. What are the charges? Reed's tone doesn't waver. Assault on a federal agent, obstruction, civil rights violation under color of authority. Brantley swallows. How long? Reed tilts his head. You mean prison? That depends on the judge. But public opinion already sentenced you. Brantley leans back, covering his face. I didn't mean to… Reed cuts him off. You didn't mean to think. Across town, Evelyn walks through her neighborhood. For the first time in days, the streets are quiet. No cameras, no chants, just normal life trying to return. An old man sweeping his porch stops her. Miss Carter, he says softly, you gave us back dignity. She shakes her head. I didn't give anything. I just stopped letting them take it. He nods slowly. Still, thank you. She continues walking, past the bakery, past the kids drawing chalk lines on the sidewalk. Each step lighter than the one before, but peace never stays. At the Department of Justice, high above the city, a group of men in suits argue over coffee and fear. She's making us look weak, one says. She's making us look accountable, another counters. Director Campbell ends the debate. Let the chips fall. If silence brought this far, maybe it's time the system learned to listen. By evening, the city gathers again. This time not to protest, but to remember. Candles line the courthouse steps. Hundreds of people stand together, heads bowed. No shouting, no signs, just presence. The same teenager who first filmed the incident holds his phone again, streaming live, whispering. She changed everything without raising her voice. His video hits 1 million views before the vigil even ends. Inside his apartment, Brantley watches the same feed. No uniform now, just a man in a wrinkled t-shirt alone with his thoughts. He rewinds Evelyn's speech again. The way she said it, calm, deliberate, no hatred, no satisfaction. I forgive him, but forgiveness isn't freedom. He whispers it aloud, his voice barely audible. I forgive him, but forgiveness isn't freedom. He laughs once, bitterly. She forgave me, but I'll never forgive myself. He opens the envelope finally. Paperwork. Summons. Federal court, Monday morning. The law moved faster than he expected. Justice always does when the world is watching. At the same time, Evelyn sits at her kitchen table. A single envelope rests before her too. An official invitation from the Bureau. A request to attend a reform panel in D.C. She reads it once, then folds it back, places it under her badge and whispers, I'm not here to fix them. I'm here to remind them. The badge catches a sliver of lamplight. The same light that once reflected off the punch, the same light that started it all. Later that night, Agent Reed drives past the courthouse. He sees the candles still burning, hundreds of them glowing like stars fallen to earth. He parks, steps out, and stands among them. A reporter recognizes him. Agent Reed, is justice served? He thinks for a moment, then answers quietly, justice doesn't serve, it remembers. By midnight, news breaks again. Brantley has been officially suspended without pay. Chief Rodriguez under investigation for corruption. City Council announces independent oversight for the police department. One reporter sums it up best. This isn't a story about outrage, it's a story about consequence. At dawn, Evelyn steps outside her building. The city smells like rain and renewal. Across the street, a child chalks her name on the pavement, not as a symbol, but as a memory. She watches, smiling faintly. The girl looks up and says, My mom said you didn't yell, so I didn't either. Evelyn kneels beside her. Good, she whispers. The world already has enough noise. The girl nods, drawing a heart next to the letters. Evelyn stands, the morning light brushing her face. She looks up at the sky, calm, steady, unbroken. Forgiveness came and went, but justice stayed behind. Quiet, patient, alive. The courthouse smells like rain and fear. Outside, the crowd waits, not chanting this time, just watching. Inside, the air is colder. Marble floors echo with every footstep. Reporters whisper. Cameras flash like distant lightning. At the end of the hallway, Officer Kyle Brantley sits alone. Hands clasped, suit borrowed, eyes empty. He's not a cop today. He's a defendant. Agent Thomas Reed enters the waiting room, file in hand, expression unreadable. You ready? Brantley's voice barely comes out. Does it matter? Reed doesn't answer. He just opens the door to the hearing room. Inside, the federal courtroom is small, but the silence makes it feel endless. A judge sits high above, stone-faced. A dozen journalists sit in the back, their pens trembling, waiting for history. Brantley rises slowly. His lawyer nudges him. He speaks into the microphone, voice trembling. Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement. Permission granted. All eyes fix on him. He clears his throat. No notes, no rehearsed apology, just a man unraveling. I thought wearing a badge made me right. I thought control was the same thing as respect. I thought silence from others meant I was doing my job. The courtroom stays still. Even the judge's pen stops moving. But when she looked at me, when I hit her, I saw something I can't forget. She wasn't afraid. She was disappointed. He swallows hard. Tears cling to his lashes, but he doesn't hide them. I kept telling myself she provoked me, that she resisted. But the truth is, I lost control. I didn't see a person. I saw a threat that wasn't there. Reed watches from the side of the room, expression unreadable. But inside, he knows this is the moment Brantley finally stops lying to himself. I can't undo it. I can't fix it. But I can tell the truth. She didn't deserve it. None of them do. The judge says nothing. The silence is punishment enough. Across town, Evelyn Carter sits by her window. Her TV is off, her phone muted. But she already knows he's speaking. She can feel it. The strange heaviness that comes when guilt finally turns into confession. She pours herself a cup of tea, the same way she did the morning after the attack. Steam rises. Memory lingers. She closes her eyes and whispers, "Let him tell the truth in full. That's all the justice I need." In the courtroom, Brantley finishes. His lawyer touches his arm, but he shakes his head. "I'm not done." He turns toward the gallery, toward the cameras, toward the entire watching world. "I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want every officer watching this to remember. Power isn't supposed to make you loud. It's supposed to make you careful." A single camera flash blinds him for a second, then silence again. A reporter in the back wipes his eyes. Reed stands, voice low. The Bureau acknowledges Officer Brantley's cooperation, but accountability doesn't end with words. The judge nods. Sentencing will be scheduled next week. Gavel strikes once. The sound echoes like a final heartbeat. Outside, the crowd surges forward, reporters shouting, lights exploding, but Brantley doesn't run. He walks through them quietly, like a man carrying the weight he finally stopped pretending didn't exist. Someone yells, "What do you have to say to Evelyn Carter?" He stops at the bottom of the courthouse steps. Rain begins to fall again. Soft, cleansing. He looks up. His voice is barely audible. "Thank you." Evelyn sees it on the news that evening. Him standing in the rain, alone, soaked, eyes lifted to the sky like someone begging for an answer. She turns the volume down. The silence feels right. Agent Reed calls. "You heard?" "Yes. What do you think?" "I think he finally saw the mirror." Reed hesitates. "They'll sentence him soon." "I know," she says, "but that's their justice. Mine already happened." Later that night, Brantley sits in his apartment, hands shaking as he writes a letter. The paper is soaked halfway through from rain dripping off his sleeves. "To Mrs. Carter," he begins, "I've said enough in court, but not what mattered. I don't expect a reply. I just want you to know that you changed the way I see everything. The silence after what I did was louder than any punishment. I'll live in that silence every day." He folds the letter, seals it in an envelope, and sets it by the door. No address, just her name. At the same moment, Evelyn lights a single candle. She looks out her window, sees the city reflected in the glass, broken, healing, alive. She whispers, "Let him carry the silence. I'll carry the peace." The candle flickers once, then steadies. In the morning, Brantley turns himself back into federal custody. The cameras wait again, but this time there are no shouts, no anger, just quiet acknowledgement. The same teenager who filmed the first video watches from the sidewalk. He whispers to his phone. He finally looks human. The feed cuts to black. That night, Evelyn walks through the park alone. The rain has stopped. She breathes deeply, the first real breath in a week. Justice doesn't always arrive in uniform. Sometimes it walks slowly, so no one hears it coming. Confession isn't the end. It's the first sound of truth, breaking the silence it once tried to kill. The courthouse stands like a monument to consequence. Gray stone, cold rain. Every drop sounds like a ticking clock. Crowds fill the steps again, umbrellas forming a sea of waiting eyes. No shouting this time, just quiet expectation. Inside, cameras are forbidden, but everyone knows the world is still watching. The nation breathes through news alerts, waiting for justice to speak or stay silent. Officer Kyle Brantley walks in escorted by 2 federal marshals. No uniform, no badge, only a plain gray suit and the weight of what he's done. He doesn't look at the cameras, doesn't look at the crowd. He only looks ahead, to the front row, where Evelyn Carter sits. She's dressed in black, simple, elegant, her hair tied back, a faint scar on her cheek still visible under the light. She doesn't flinch when he enters. She just watches him with that same calm stare, the one that has haunted him since the punch. The courtroom fills slowly. Agent Thomas Reed takes a seat behind her. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't have to. The judge enters. Court is now in session. The room stands. Then silence settles, heavy and absolute. Brantley's attorney begins, but no one really listens. The facts are already carved into memory. The only thing left is truth. The prosecution shows the footage again. The punch, the blood, the stillness after. No one gasps this time. They've seen it before. Now, they're here to see if the system can feel it. The prosecutor's voice is calm, deliberate. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this case is not about power. It's about perspective. He walks slowly toward the screen. Officer Brantley saw a threat, but the only threat that day was his own prejudice. Brantley looks down. He doesn't argue. He knows. When it's his turn to speak, he stands slowly, hands trembling, voice low. "I've already confessed," he says. "I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to own it." He turns toward Evelyn. For the first time, their eyes meet again. "I thought silence made me strong," he says. "I was wrong. Her silence was strength. Mine was cowardice." Evelyn's expression doesn't change, but a single tear escapes down her cheek, the first and only one. He continues, "I used my badge to command respect I hadn't earned, and when I lost control, I called it duty. But it was fear, just fear." The room stays still. The judge doesn't interrupt. No one does. He lowers his voice. "People like me, we talk about protecting peace, but maybe we never knew what peace really looked like until we saw someone refuse to fight back." He glances down. "I don't ask for mercy, just understanding, so no one else has to make the same mistake I did." When he sits, the air feels different. He's no longer the villain everyone expected, just a man stripped bare by truth. The judge nods. "Ms. Carter," he says, "you've been asked to give a statement." Evelyn stands. Every sound disappears. No rustling, no breathing. Just the slow rhythm of her footsteps as she approaches the stand. She looks at the judge first, then at Brantley. Her voice is calm, measured like everything she's ever said. "He's right. I didn't fight back, because I've spent my life watching what happens when people do." She pauses. The jury leans forward. "I'm not here to punish him. I'm here to remind all of us what restraint looks like." She glances toward the jury. Justice doesn't need rage to exist. Sometimes it just needs patience. Her words hang in the air, soft but unshakable. "I forgive him. Not because he asked, but because hate would make me just like him that day. And I refuse to be that person." Brantley looks down, shoulders shaking. No one speaks. Evelyn finishes simply. "If this trial means anything, let it mean that silence isn't surrender. It's strength." Then she steps away. The judge clears his throat, visibly moved. He looks down at his notes, then back at the courtroom. This court finds the defendant guilty on all counts. No gasps, no cheers, just the sound of paper being signed, and the quiet weight of accountability landing where it belongs. Outside, the world waits. Reporters, citizens, strangers. When the verdict is announced, they don't shout. They applaud softly. Some cry, some smile. Agent Reed exits the building, stops on the steps beside Evelyn. "It's over," he says. She shakes her head gently. "No, it's begun." He looks at her. "Do you ever regret not fighting back?" She smiles faintly. "Every fight starts with noise, but this one ended with silence. That's progress." As the sun sets behind the courthouse, Brantley is led into a waiting van. No handcuffs, just resignation. He looks through the window one last time. Evelyn stands outside, hands folded, watching him go, not with anger, but with something far heavier, mercy. Their eyes meet through the glass. He mouths a single word, "Sorry." She nods once, and the van drives away. That night, the city feels lighter, not healed, but breathing again. Every candle from the vigils burns one last time before the wind takes them. Evelyn stands on her balcony, watching the flicker fade across the streets. Her reflection glows faintly in the glass. She whispers, "Justice isn't a sound, it's an understanding." The city hums softly in reply. The silence, once heavy, now feels alive. The trial ended, but the lesson stayed, and the world finally listened. The sun rises over a city that feels different. For the first time in a week, there are no sirens, no chanting crowds, just quiet. People read the headlines over breakfast, watching the same sentence scroll across every screen. Officer Kyle Brantley found guilty. Some smile, some cry, some just stare, trying to understand how silence had changed everything. Inside the federal courthouse, Brantley stands between two marshals. The gavel has already fallen. The sentence is official, 15 years without parole. He doesn't argue, doesn't look for sympathy. He simply nods. His attorney whispers, "You can appeal." Brantley shakes his head. "No, I've said enough." He looks toward the front row. Evelyn Carter isn't there. She didn't come for the verdict, and somehow, that hurts more than the punishment. Outside, Agent Thomas Reed waits with a folder under his arm. When he sees Brantley being escorted out, he steps forward. Their eyes meet for the last time. No anger, just quiet acknowledgement. Reed says, "You told the truth. That matters." Brantley nods. Then maybe she was right. About what? That silence teaches louder than words. Reed doesn't respond. He just watches as Brantley is placed into the transport van. Doors close. Engine hums. A chapter ends. Across the city, Evelyn sits in her apartment surrounded by letters, hundreds of them. Some handwritten, some typed, all addressed to her. She reads one after another. A teacher writes, "Your silence changed my students more than 100 lessons." A police officer writes, "I watch that video every day until I stopped making excuses." A mother writes, "You reminded me that dignity doesn't need noise." Evelyn folds each letter carefully, placing them in a wooden box. Not for pride, but for memory. Agent Reed knocks on her door. She lets him in. "The verdict's in," he says. She nods. "I know. You didn't go. I didn't need to." He studies her face. "You should see how the country's talking about you. They're calling you the voice of reason." Evelyn smiles faintly. The irony being, I hardly said anything. That evening, the Bureau hosts a small press conference. Director Campbell stands at the podium, flanked by the American flag and reporters buzzing with anticipation. He clears his throat. The Bureau acknowledges the courage of former agent Evelyn Carter. Her restraint and integrity reflect the highest values of justice. Cameras flash. Campbell pauses. But her example also reminds us, silence is not absence. It is presence with purpose. The room falls still. Even the journalists lower their pens for a moment. Across the country, cities hold quiet vigils. No speeches, no shouting, just candles and faces lit by the same soft glow. Children hold signs with her words written in bright ink. Forgiveness isn't freedom. Silence is strength. Her message becomes more than a quote. It becomes a philosophy. Meanwhile, Brantley sits in a transport bus, hands cuffed, staring out the window as the city disappears behind him. He doesn't see a skyline anymore, just reflections of everything he destroyed. The man beside him whispers, "What did they get you for?" Brantley answers quietly, "For forgetting what my badge meant." The man laughs once, bitterly. Brantley doesn't. He's done laughing. He looks down at his hands, still trembling, still guilty. He remembers Evelyn's face, the calm after the storm. It will follow him for the next 15 years. Back in her apartment, Evelyn brews tea and sits by the window. The city hums below. The world outside finally feels slower, softer. She opens her old FBI badge one last time. Her reflection stares back from the polished metal. Then she closes it gently and places it in a drawer. Agent Reed sits across from her, quiet for a while. Then he says, "Washington still wants you for that reform panel." "I'm done with panels," she replies. "People don't need new rules. They need new understanding." He smiles. "You know, you could have been the loudest person in the country." "I was," she says softly. "They just didn't hear it until I stopped talking." As night falls, the city glows with scattered candlelight. Balconies, parks, courthouse steps. The air feels different, not heavy but clean. Evelyn stands by her window, watching the lights shimmer like stars fall into the streets. She whispers, "They finally understand what silence can build." Agent Reed finishes his tea and stands to leave. Before he goes, he asks, "Do you think he'll change?" Evelyn looks out at the night. "He already did. The moment he looked at himself and saw me." Reed nods slowly. "Then maybe this time, the system learned." "Maybe," she says, "but systems forget. That's why stories exist, to remind them." Down the street, the same teenager who filmed everything a week ago uploads a new video, not of violence, but of the courthouse glowing under candlelight. His caption reads, "Sometimes justice whispers." Within hours, the video spreads across the world. Millions watch, Not for outrage, but for peace. And somewhere in that calm, Evelyn smiles. The verdict didn't end the story. It carried it forward, quietly, deliberately, like truth learning to breathe again. The courthouse steps are empty now. Rain washed away the candles, only wax stains remain, ghosts of light that refuse to burn quietly. For a moment, the city feels calm. Then the backlash begins. Television panels roar again. Was the sentence too harsh? Did public pressure influence the court? Has this gone too far? The same networks that once praised Evelyn now question her silence. What is she hiding? Why won't she speak again? Some call her a hero, others call her manipulative. The truth, as always, stands between noise and quiet. Inside the FBI's Washington office, Agent Thomas Reed faces a conference table full of discomfort. Officials whisper terms like political sensitivity and public optics. Director Campbell rubs his temples. The case reopened wounds we weren't ready to show. One agent mutters, "She's making the bureau look soft." Reed's voice cuts through the room, steady and low. "She's making us look accountable." The table goes silent. For a brief moment, no one breathes. Campbell sighs. "Public perception's dividing the country. We need control." Reed shakes his head. "You can't control truth once people start listening to it." Campbell looks up. "You sound like her." Reed almost smiles. "I take that as a compliment." Meanwhile, in the city, Evelyn walks through a park she hasn't visited in years. Children play under the trees. A mural of her face now stretches across a wall, half smile, half shadow. Someone spray-painted words beneath it. Strength and stillness. She stops, staring at it for a long moment. Then she whispers, "I never wanted to be an image." A voice behind her says, "You became one because you didn't chase it." It's a reporter, Nina Ellis, the woman who filmed her first public walk after the attack. She lowers her camera now. "People want to hear from you again. One last statement." Evelyn shakes her head. "The world doesn't need another quote. It needs time to absorb the ones it already has." Nina hesitates. "You know they're twisting your story online, right?" "I know," Evelyn says softly, "but truth isn't afraid of distortion. It waits until lies run out of breath." Across town, the police department crumbles under investigation. Files are reopened. Old complaints resurface. Officers resign quietly, hoping to disappear before the light reaches them. A memo circulates among the ranks. "Maintain professionalism, do not comment publicly." But whispers grow louder than silence ever did. One officer tells another, "She made them all afraid to wear a badge." The reply comes cold. "No, she made them remember what it should mean." That afternoon, Reed visits Evelyn again. She's sitting by her window, as always, with tea steaming beside her. "They're trying to discredit you," he says. "I know. Social media's tearing itself apart. They're saying you only got justice because of who you were." "I didn't get justice," she says. "I reminded them what it looked like." Reed sits down. "You think this storm will pass?" Evelyn glances outside. "Storms never pass. They just move to new skies." He studies her for a moment. "You know they want me to testify in another hearing. Internal corruption." "Will you?" she asks. He nods slowly. "I think I have to." Evelyn smiles faintly. "Then make sure they understand. Justice isn't about fixing the system. It's about never letting it sleep." By evening, the news grows darker. Anonymous threats flood her inbox. Posts call her a fraud, a plant, a symbol used by the powerful. Reed sees it too. He calls her. "They're turning on you." "I expected that." "You're not worried?" "No." Noise burns itself out faster than silence. She hangs up, closes her laptop, and lets the quiet return. The next morning, Nina Ellis releases a new story. Title: "The Woman Who Spoke Without Words." It opens with Evelyn's quote from the courthouse. "Justice doesn't need rage to exist. Sometimes it just needs patience." The article spreads fast, faster than the hate. By noon, it trends worldwide again, not because of outrage, but because people missed the calm. At the bureau, Reed receives a message from Director Campbell. "Internal review cleared you. Case officially closed." Reed leans back, exhausted, but something in him can't rest. He replies, "No case like this is ever closed." That night, Evelyn sits outside her building. The streetlights flicker softly. She watches a young cop walk past on patrol. He recognizes her immediately. "Agent Carter?" he asks nervously. She nods. He swallows hard. "I joined the force because of you." Evelyn tilts her head. Because of me? Or because of what happened? He hesitates. Both. She smiles faintly. Then make sure you know the difference. He nods and walks away. She watches him disappear into the dark, a symbol of what could go right if silence keeps teaching. The night grows quiet again. The air smells of rain. The city hums like a heartbeat that's finally steady. Evelyn closes her eyes. The backlash has come and gone. The noise tried to bury her, but all it did was make her echo louder. The louder they shouted, the deeper her silence was heard. The morning light creeps through gray clouds. Another quiet day, another city still adjusting to its reflection. Agent Thomas Reed sits in his car outside Evelyn Carter's apartment. Engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. He's rehearsed what he wants to say 100 times. Still, the words feel wrong. He takes a breath, steps out, and walks toward the door. Inside, Evelyn is already awake, tea steaming, a record player spinning soft jazz in the background. She doesn't look surprised when he knocks. She never does. When she opens the door, Reed hesitates. "You knew I'd come?" She nods once. "You always come when the noise fades." He steps inside. The apartment smells like cinnamon and calm, walls lined with books, windows open just enough to let in the city hum. He sits across from her at the table. For a while, neither speaks, just the sound of rain starting outside, soft and steady. Finally, Reed says, "They've cleared me from the review board." "I heard." "They're still watching you, though, every move." "I know." She takes a slow sip of tea. Her hands don't shake. They never do. Reed studies her. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Stay calm when the whole world's turning you into something you're not?" Evelyn smiles faintly. "I stopped trying to prove what I am. People will always see what fits their story." He leans back, sighing. "You ever wish you'd never worn the badge?" She looks out the window. "Sometimes. But then I remember, the badge didn't betray me. The people behind it did." Reed reaches into his coat pocket, pulls out an envelope. "This came from the warden at St. Mary's Penitentiary." He slides it across the table. Evelyn doesn't touch it yet. "He wrote you a letter." "Brantley?" Reed nods. "He's different now. They say he barely speaks. Spends hours in the chapel alone." Evelyn watches the envelope like it's made of glass. After a long silence, she says, "Have you read it?" "I skimmed it. You should too." She opens it carefully. The handwriting is rough, uneven. The ink smudged like it was written through shaking hands. "Mrs. Carter, I don't know what forgiveness feels like, but I'm trying to live like I deserve it. Your silence echoes louder here than any sermon. Every night I hear it. It doesn't accuse me. It reminds me. I'm not asking for peace. I'm asking for purpose. If you ever think of me, don't think of what I did. Think of the moment you didn't hit back. That's the moment that saved me." Evelyn folds the letter slowly, places it on the table. Her eyes stay on it for a long time. Reed watches her, uncertain. "You okay?" She nods. Some truths don't need answers, just acknowledgement. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance. The rain thickens, tapping the glass rhythmically. Reed breaks the silence. "They're talking about making your story part of FBI training." Evelyn looks up, surprised. "Training?" "Yeah, they want recruits to study restraint, empathy, moral courage. All because of you." She lets out a quiet laugh, the first in days. "Ironic, isn't it? I spent years teaching agents to act. Now they're studying me for staying still." Reed smiles faintly. "You changed the job." She shakes her head. "No, I reminded it what it was supposed to be." He looks around her apartment again. No awards, no framed newspaper covers, just simplicity. A woman at peace in a world still arguing with itself. Reed clears his throat. "You know, when I saw that video the first time, I wanted to quit." "Why didn't you?" "Because I realized quitting would make me part of the silence that lets men like him win." Evelyn studies him for a moment. "You learned something most people never do." "What's that?" "Silence isn't surrender. It's a decision about what deserves your energy." Reed nods slowly. "I think I finally understand that." He stands to leave but pauses by the door. "You ever gonna speak publicly again?" She looks down at the letter. "I already did. He heard me." He nods, steps out into the rain. Evelyn watches from the window as Reed walks down the street. His coat darkens with rain, but his shoulders look lighter than before. She turns back to the table, picks up the letter once more, and sets it inside her wooden box of correspondence. The same box where all the others rest. Teachers, mothers, officers, strangers. Letters written in gratitude, anger, confusion. Every one of them proof that silence can move mountains. As night falls, Evelyn sits by the window. The rain stops. The street glistens under dim light. She whispers softly to herself, "He's not the same man anymore." Then, almost like an echo, "And neither am I." A car passes below. Its headlights paint fleeting shadows across the walls. For a brief moment, the reflection in the glass looks like a different version of her, younger, unscarred, unaware of what would come. She watches it fade, then smiles quietly. Growth always leaves a mark. At the same hour, in his prison cell, Brantley kneels on the concrete floor. No words, no tears, just stillness. He folds his hands, looks up toward the small window where moonlight seeps in. He whispers, "She didn't speak, but she taught me everything." And in that silence, two people, miles apart, finally understand the same truth. Forgiveness isn't an ending. It's the sound of two hearts learning to breathe again. The city wakes to a new sound, not sirens, not protests, just the slow hum of rebuilding. News outlets run the same headline all morning, "The Carter Effect." Across the country, police departments announce internal reviews, mandatory empathy training, new oversight boards, new eyes watching old habits. No one says her name outright anymore. They don't have to. Everyone knows who started it. Inside FBI headquarters, Agent Thomas Reed sits at a long conference table again. But this time, the tone has changed. No shouting, no denial, just acknowledgement. Director Campbell stands at the front, addressing a room of senior officials. "We lost sight of what we're supposed to protect," he says quietly. "Not just safety, integrity." He nods toward Reed. Agent Reed will head the new Internal Ethics Division. Murmurs ripple through the room, some surprised, some skeptical. Reed stands. "Change doesn't start with new policies," he says. "It starts with people deciding that silence can't be their excuse anymore." The room goes still. Every word carries weight, not because of authority, but because it sounds like Evelyn. Meanwhile, Evelyn walks through her neighborhood again. Children wave to her from the park. One little boy salutes. She smiles and waves back. The mural of her face has been retouched, now surrounded by painted hands of every color, lifting her image higher as if saying, "You spoke for us without speaking." A woman at the corner store calls out, "Miss Carter, did you hear? They changed the training manuals. Your speech is in them." Evelyn smiles faintly. "I didn't make a speech." "You didn't have to," the woman replies. At the same time, in St. Mary's Penitentiary, Brantley sweeps the chapel floor. The chaplain nods to him. "Service starts in 10 minutes. Brantley nods silently, then sits in the last pew. Same seat Evelyn once sat in when she needed clarity. He watches the light pour through the stained glass, the colors bleeding across his hands. He whispers softly, "Maybe redemption isn't forgiveness. Maybe it's the willingness to stay and face yourself." For the first time since his arrest, he feels something close to peace. Back in Washington, Reed visits Director Campbell's office. Stacks of reform proposals line the desk. Campbell looks exhausted but hopeful. "Congress wants a public face for the Bureau's reform initiative," Campbell says. "They want her." Reed frowns. "She won't do it." "Try anyway." He leaves the office, driving through the rain until he reaches Evelyn's building. When she opens the door, he doesn't bother with small talk. "They want you to represent the Bureau's reforms." She shakes her head immediately. "I'm done being a symbol." "They need you, Evelyn." "They need to need themselves," she says softly. Reed sighs. "You realize you've changed everything." She looks away. "I never wanted to change everything. I just wanted to remind people what control looks like." Later that night, Evelyn sits on her balcony, listening to the hum of the city. A news anchor's voice drifts through an open window somewhere. Reform is sweeping the nation. Training programs now include the Carter module, focusing on empathy, restraint, and community engagement. She closes her eyes. It feels strange to hear her name turned into curriculum. Stranger still that it all began with silence. The next morning, Reed returns. He's carrying a small box. Inside it, a medal. Gold-plated, engraved, "For courage and silence." He sets it on her table. She frowns. "I don't need that." "I know," he says. "But they do." She stares at the medal for a long moment, then pushes it back to him. "Keep it in your office. Remind them what this really cost." Reed nods, understanding completely. He stands to leave, but she stops him. "Thomas," she says softly, "promise me something. Anything. When all this settles and they move on to the next story, don't forget the sound of that silence." He nods. "I won't." That afternoon, Reed speaks before a room of new recruits. He tells them about restraint, about the difference between fear and respect, and about one woman who changed the bureau without raising her voice. He ends with her quote, "Justice doesn't need rage to exist. Sometimes it just needs patience." The room stays silent, not because they're bored, but because they understand. That night, Evelyn walks by the courthouse again. The wax stains from the old candles are still there. She kneels down, runs her fingers across them. A small group of people nearby recognize her. They don't rush her. They don't ask for photos. They just nod respectfully, as if standing in the presence of something sacred. She straightens, looks up at the courthouse. It no longer feels like the place she was hurt. It feels like the place where silence found its voice. She whispers, "It's not about me anymore." In a prison cell miles away, Brantley writes another letter. He doesn't send it. He doesn't need to. He folds it carefully, places it under his pillow, and whispers, "She gave me back my humanity." Reed finishes his first day as head of the ethics division. On his desk sits the medal Evelyn refused. He looks at it and smiles. A reminder. A promise. Reform didn't start with power. It started with patience. And patience learned her name. 2 weeks. That's how long it's been. 2 weeks since a punch turned into a movement. Since silence became louder than every headline in America. The city finally exhales. Traffic hums. Life returns to its rhythm. But something feels different, lighter, aware. At FBI headquarters, Agent Thomas Reed stands in front of a classroom of new recruits. He's not reading from a manual, he's speaking from memory. Integrity, he says, isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you protect when they stop. He pauses. The recruits hang on every word. Reed continues, 2 weeks ago, a woman showed this country that silence isn't weakness, it's restraint. And restraint is power. Behind him, on a screen, a single image glows. Evelyn Carter standing before the courthouse, head high, face calm. No caption, no music, just presence. The room is silent, exactly how it should be. Across town, Evelyn walks through a local community center. Walls covered in drawings, children's versions of her story. Some show her standing before flashing cameras. Others show her holding out her hand, stopping a storm. A young girl tugs on her sleeve. "Miss Carter, my teacher says you're brave." Evelyn kneels to her level. "Your teacher's wrong." The girl tilts her head. "Then what are you?" Evelyn smiles softly. "Patient." The girl laughs and runs off. A mural in progress covers the far wall. It reads, "Strength and Stillness." Evelyn stands before it, watching a volunteer add the final brushstroke. At St. Mary's Penitentiary, Brantley wakes before dawn. The guards barely notice him anymore. He keeps to himself, reads, writes, thinks. On the wall above his bed, he's taped a single sentence. Forgiveness isn't freedom, it's a mirror. Every morning he reads it like a prayer. Every night, he wonders how someone he hurt the most taught him how to be human again. That morning, he writes his final letter. "Mrs. Carter, I've stopped asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I've learned that silence can be an apology when words can't. I'll spend the rest of my life living inside that silence." He folds the letter, seals it, but this time he doesn't send it. He burns it slowly, watching the ashes rise toward the small prison window, a kind of release. That afternoon, Evelyn receives a call. It's Reed. "They've officially named the Bureau's new ethics program," he says. "What did they call it?" "The Carter Standard." She's silent for a moment. "Sounds heavy." "It's meant to be," she sighs. "You know I didn't do this for recognition." "I know," Reed says. "That's why it matters. They don't say goodbye. They never do. They just let the silence hang. Their shared language." That evening, Evelyn walks to the same courthouse steps where it all began. The wax stains are nearly gone now. Rain and time have done their quiet work. She sits on the cold stone step, looking up at the towering building. Once, it stood for power. Now, it stands for accountability. A breeze moves through the square. Someone across the street plays a slow tune on a saxophone. It echoes faintly, a song for endings that don't sound like endings. She looks at her reflection in a puddle. Her face is older, calmer, unchained. Meanwhile, at FBI headquarters, Reed packs up his things after another long day. He pauses at the medal on his desk, the one Evelyn refused. He picks it up, studies it in the dim light, then sets it back down. He knows what she'd say. Symbols fade, actions stay. He turns off the light, the office slipping into darkness. But the medal still glints faintly, catching the last bit of sun. As night falls, the city hums like it always has, but softer, kinder. In the distance, Evelyn walks home under the streetlights. No cameras, no crowd. Just her, the sound of her shoes on wet pavement, and a sense of peace that finally feels earned. When she reaches her building, she pauses, looking up at the sky. The clouds have cleared. Stars blink faintly through the haze. She whispers, "You can stop fighting now." No one answers, but somehow she feels heard. Inside her apartment, she places Brantley's old letterbox on the table. She opens it one last time, reading through the messages. Not to remember the pain, but to measure the distance she's traveled. Then she closes the lid. Not as an ending, but as a quiet promise to herself. In the final moments of the night, the camera would fade slowly from her window. The same window where this story began. The same city, the same lights. But everything changed. Because one woman chose silence when the world demanded noise, and in doing so, she taught the world how to listen. Justice was served, but peace was earned.